This is Modern Mindset, the show that picks the brains of the world's leading minds to help you unlock yours. I'm your host, Adam Cox, and joining me today we have the CEO of SJL Insurance Services, Simon Lancaster. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Great to have you on there. First of all, before we get into talking about increase in cyber attacks, you set up your business quite young. What was your inspiration to do that? Because there is a script, a narrative for most people, which is go to university, get your qualifications, get a job, and then kind of work your way up. What was different for you?
Yeah, well, I did. I did start to go down that route. I went to college and started my A levels, but about 3 months in, I decided that it wasn't for me, and that I wanted to get out into the world of business and give it a go. So I got an apprenticeship at a local brokers, worked at various brokers for several years, and then again, like you say, at the age of 23, thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a go on my own. So started out the spare bedroom of my mum and dad's house, and I suppose I don't know, call it naive or call it brave at that age, but just had a go with no fear, really, nothing to lose attitude, and fortunately it worked out. So yeah, there are other routes to university. University is great. You know, my eldest son's at university, but there are other routes if you don't want to go down that one.
No, fantastic. Very, very inspiring there. So tell us about why the pandemic has led to an increase in cyber attacks.
Well, we carried out a YouGov poll 2 years ago, and we've carried out another one this year because we are fearful that businesses are suffering more and more cyber attacks, and also that they're not protecting themselves against these attacks. You know, they've always protected themselves against traditional insurance that needs fire, flood, etc. But as criminals have moved online, businesses aren't moving their insurance protection the same way. So our poll has showed that cybercrime is up with from 20 to 28% of businesses suffering a cyber attack. And also that has increased because of the pandemic, about 17% reporting more attacks for the pandemic, which I think is probably because the number of people working from home, you know, working remotely. So the data is less secure, and also they're receiving instructions from their managers via email rather than face to face. So it's a bit more easier to get duped into making false payments, etc., etc. So there has been an increase from working from home as well. And I saw on the BBC yesterday that the head of MI5 was warning that cyber attacks are on the increase, not just from hostile states, but also criminal groups shouted by hostile states. And they're not just targeting big businesses, they're targeting SMEs who are considered low hanging fruit, but they're also considered a route into larger organizations. So it's a real threat for all businesses, including SMEs. And you can spend as much money as you want, but the internet will never be 100% secure. The best way to secure yourself is to get some adequate cyber insurance in place.
It's interesting you talk about cyber insurance because a lot of businesses are going to have a different mentality when it comes to, let's say, physical property rather than intellectual property. So they might have alarms, they might have locks on their doors, they might have insurance so that if things get stolen, they're going to be compensated for that. Do you think people have a different mentality when it comes to cybercrime and the perceived threat, and also how they defend themselves against, if they are a victim, how they're going to get compensated for that?
I think that's absolutely true, and I think there's a number of factors sort of contributing to that. I think part of it is education. You know, we speak to businesses and they don't really understand the threat, but they also don't understand the types of insurance out there to protect them. It's also cost because, of course, it is another price to pay. And I suppose at the moment businesses are watching every penny, so that might be a factor why the survey said that only 23% of businesses are taking out cyber insurance, which is actually down from 31%. So whilst the tax are going up, the number of businesses with the cyber insurance is going down. And like you say, I think businesses are used to protecting themselves against the old traditional crimes and losses of physical property, physical stock, but they're not yet of the mindset that they need to protect for the digital losses and the cyber losses, shall we say. And some of the losses can be quite huge. I mean, our survey showed that the average size of a loss is £233,000, so it could be quite hefty. And if you get an attack like that, you're certainly going to be glad that you had some cyber insurance in place, which is quite affordable. Obviously, it depends on the side of the business, but for medium-sized businesses, you're talking hundreds, not thousands of pounds for cyber insurance. So if you come into your office on a Monday morning and your systems are down, they've been hacked, nothing's working, you're being held to ransom, Imagine what would you do? But if you've got cyber insurance, that'll be the best few £100 you ever spend. You phone them, they come in, they negotiate, they pay the ransom, they get you back up and running. They pay any fines for a data breach, and like I say, it'd probably be the best money you ever spent.
And that's surprising to hear that these insurance companies actually do pay the ransoms to kind of get things working again. Is that unusual? Because you wouldn't expect that in a different type of crime, in a kidnapping and things like that, or if property's stolen. Why do you think that's just because of how much power these kind of hackers have over the data and over the system?
I think it is, yeah. I mean, we had a case where it was a hotel, and cyber criminals had taken control of the door locks and locked all of the doors in the hotel, and they said that they wouldn't unlock them until they got paid a ransom. Well, the thing that the hotel needs to unlock those doors as quick as possible. So they fortunately did have cyber insurance in place, and they negotiated with the cyber criminals, paid a ransom in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and got it all released. So I suppose what's the lesser of two evils, really? I mean, you're right. It's a tried and tested method not to pay ransoms, but I think sometimes it's just the path of least resistance, really. If that gets you back up and running, protects your customers, protects your business, then sometimes it helps.
Absolutely, and certainly it does seem that they are very, very sophisticated. I'm thinking in terms of, they're stealing like credit card numbers and accounts details and locking people out of their PCs. But all these things are computer enabled. So if you can lock guests in hotel rooms, they become a prisoner, don't they? So I can see why they would pay a ransom in that sense.
Yes,
What can
definitely.
someone
And
expect?
also as well, sorry to interrupt, damage
Sorry, go
limitation, if they take
on.
control of all your clients' data, the last thing you want is that data to be, released to more criminals, to the wider world. You need to protect your clients' data, and if that means paying a ransom, then I suppose it's a price worth paying, I guess.
Well, I guess part of the psychology of paying ransoms is that, you know, what if they backtrack and they've got the Bitcoin and then the very next day they're doing it again because they know that you are willing to pay a ransom. Can you really trust these cyber criminals to be people of their word if their goal is to extort money from vulnerable businesses?
Well, that is of course a danger, and that is a reason why you don't pay ransoms, I suppose, in general life, because it could encourage more. But I guess you just need to negotiate with them and ensure that they do uphold their part of the bargain. But I suppose when you're dealing with criminals in any walk of life, of course, there is an element of risk, I suppose. Yeah, there's no
Mm.
there's no hiding from that.
And what could someone expect for cyber insurance to actually cover? What level of protection does it give them?
Well, a wide-ranging, comprehensive cyber policy would cover the sort of emergency remedy. So, like I say, if you come in and your systems are down, they've been hacked, they would immediately pick that up, resolve the situation, get you back up and running as soon as possible, which is quite a complex task, as you can imagine. They would negotiate with the ransom. If there was a ransom being asked for, they would pay the actual ransom itself. It would cover the actual ransom itself. They would also, if there's been a data breach, they would communicate with all of your clients and customers about the data breach in a legal and compliant manner. It also covers any fines if there are fines for the data breach. It would also cover third party losses if you got sued. And also that there's an element which you can add on, which is it covers money that you might get duped out of through phishing, invoice interception, things like that. We're seeing a lot of companies, again, particularly as a result of the pandemic, with more people working from home, where we had one with our head of our accounts team with a criminal email pretending to be me, and the email looked like it was from me and asking her to make this payment. And it was only because that they hadn't used the nickname that I used for her that she realised it was fraudulent, and she could have made that payment. And a lot of businesses are being tricked into payments, but a comprehensive cyber insurance would actually cover your losses in those sorts of situations as well. So quite wide ranging cover.
And what are the steps businesses can take to protect their data? Because I'm assuming insurance is one thing, but then there's also, making sure you have got, the antivirus, the cybersecurity, certain things, policies in place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are lots of things, all of which cost money. I mean, again, to use the physical example, you would have an alarm, you would have locks, and so on and so forth on your shop. So you certainly should be having antivirus software. You certainly should be having systems, code names, on payments. Maybe double signing, things like that to make payments secure. You can actually hire, and we've done this at our office. An ethical hacker who will come and try and hack in your system so you can work out where the holes are and plug those holes. So there's lots of things that businesses could and should be doing, but with the best will in the world, you can't make it 100% safe. I mean, if government agencies and elements of government and big companies like BA are getting hacked, then they certainly can get into an SME as well. So I think whilst you should do all those layers of protection, the ultimate protection is to get some insurance in place that will cover you should the worst happen.
It's been a very eye-opening interview there, Simon. Where can people go for more information if they are worried about this, or if they want to make sure they've got a good policy in place to protect them?
Yeah, so they could go to the government website where there is some information on a recent cyber bit of research that they did, or they could visit our website, which is sjlinsurance.com, and find out some more about the benefits of cyber insurance.
Simon Lancaster there. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
And to your home, thanks for joining me on Modern Mindset in association with Share Radio. See you again soon for more.